Hi there. Today I will be showing you how I painted a little pirate that I 3D printed. It's this little guy here, and I'll be showing you how I did most of my leathering because, as we all know, pirates have a bunch of leather, and this guy is no exception. He has a coat, everything that is makes him piratey, and actually I got a lot of inspired by a bunch of pirate movies that I've been watching recently and a lot of pirate shows. And it was pretty cool to paint it, and just to get in the mindset of what actual realistically some of the colors would have looked like. So the first things I need are my tools. Here's my trusty old wet palette by Army Painter, and you guys cannot see him that well, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move him a little bit closer. Here we go, it's a little bit better. And like I said, since it's going to be a lot of leather and a lot of browns, in the beginning it's going to look like everything just very brown, but trust me, in the end it's gonna look quite good in my opinion. But before that, I'm gonna go ahead and base him, so let's go ahead and add some colors. And voila, this is how it ended up doing. I wanted to do it this way because I just wanted to show off how it's going to look like with base. For me, like this, he already looks pretty much finished, but like I said, this is a video I'm showing you how I added the textures and everything else, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start working on that. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and start off and just go ahead and show you like a little bit 360 view of how he ended up looking. Like I said, maybe it could just already be finished for most people, but I wanted to just go a little bit above and beyond, just go ahead to show you how the process of me of adding more texture, more details to this went. And to me it looks pretty much amazing already. The scale 75 artist range works wonders, and I highly recommend for y'all to try it out if you haven't. But those pigments are just amazing, they're top notch, they're chef's kiss. Now I'm going to start off with his pants. I'm just gonna do some glazing and layering. I'm going to be adding just lighter and lighter shades of the brown that I used, and it's going to be working great. Like I said, this artist colors helps me a lot to figure out the color mixing and also think about pigments and everything, think about the shades that I want to add. And if I add a little bit too much brown, it becomes too bright, so it has to be the right consistency. I like to have it a lot like very thin down, so I can just add very thin layers on top of it. And that also, when you do stippling or when you do some other kind of techniques that you guys like to do or anything like that, it kind of adds a lot of texture to your pants. I once heard my partner say that leather is a living kind of product. It's the kind of product that after you keep on wearing it and wearing it, it gets more worn down, but because of that it adds more personality, more uniqueness to it. And when you do those stippling kind of techniques, or when you do other sort of techniques that add a little bit texture as you're painting, as you're adding more layers, it kind of gives it a little bit more lived on kind of product, kind of pants, and that is quite great. And the same thing goes with everything that is wood. For the pants I decided to go for a light brown. Like I said, I inspired myself a lot with a lot of paintings that I googled and a lot of like I said, shows and movies. For the leather, it was the same thing. You just start off with your base color, and then you just move on to a lighter shade. But like I said, don't go too bright when it comes to those kind of things. Leather tends to be dark after you wear it. It doesn't get any brighter, and with the only spots that do look bright are the parts that are like kind of like scarred or scratched. But even over time, after you keep on wearing it, it becomes kind of dark. And for the ropes, it's a little bit more different, since ropes can be any kind of color. But like I said, it's basically the same thing over. It's just you have to think about how you imagine a real life thing would be if you want to be painting more realistically. I like to think that this guy, he goes through the swamps, he's in a ship, he has all the weather from the rain and everything. So in my mind, that's what pirates are, and so therefore their clothes have to be rugged, their clothes have to be worn down, it has to have age, it has to show that personality that comes out of it. And that is what exactly I did for his boots. For the wood, like I said, is basically the same concept. It's just you're gonna do a lot of stippling, or if you like to do some feathering, it doesn't matter. As long as you do one of those two techniques, if you know how to do them, or it could be the perfect place where you can practice them. But if you do them, it will give this great kind of texture to it, especially if you really thin down your paints into like almost a watery consistency, where whenever you put your colors in, it doesn't leave too much pigments on it. That way you can just build it up over time and just keep on adding more and more until it gets to that perfect little kind of rugged kind of color, and eventually it will look kind of realistic. That is the way I like to add color to it. Now for the skin, this is something that I wanted to experiment on. I've never actually been good at painting skin, and I decided to challenge myself here. I mean, it's just like any other painter, like you just want to challenge, you just want to go above and beyond. And I wanted to do some, dark, I wanted to do some brown color as kind of like my skin color. And so the way I wanted to start it off is I really looked at myself as a model for the skin color. Is that kind of like also with white skin, this is that you have darker shades when the sun doesn't hit it and brighter shades. But I wanted to just experiment and try to figure out how to get that perfect consistency where it kind of looks natural. It doesn't look too weird when you look at it in certain angles, or it just doesn't look weird overall. But thankfully, like I said, the artist range color does have some really great skin colors, and I wanted to work with those and kind of just experiment a little bit. Now the areas that I would like to focus on, and I would like to recommend for you to focus on when it comes to the face, is the places that get the most sun, the places that get the most shine are going to be your forehead, your nose, and your cheeks. So whenever you want to add those kind of brighter colors, when you want to add those highlights, those are the areas that you should be focused on. And it goes for the rest of the body, is that when you do some feathering, when you do some texture, when you do some stippling, it's going to be adding texture to it. But as well, you gotta be remembering where you're thinking that your light source is coming. Mine, I always like to draw them from the top, because aside from the fact that it's a little bit easier and a little bit more natural since the sun does come from the top, it does help you visualize how things should be and where those highlights should be. Another thing I like to do that I did not show off is I like to take a picture of my models in the shade and just point a light on top of it and take a picture of it like that, so I can see where those highlights should be. Or with the zenithal highlights, you can take a picture before you start painting it, so you can get an idea where those highlights should be. But like I said, what I like to do is I like to do a lot of stippling, a lot of feathering, and afterwards I like to add just a little bit of a very thin down to almost to clearly a watered consistency kind of just coat all over, so I can just smooth out all those layer lines, because as you can see, I am putting down some heavy kind of differences in colors when it comes to my highlights. I'm going for a brown and a medium, and then I'm just go ahead and adding that very thin down to, like I said, almost a water consistency, so I can those highlights can blend with those shadows. And the color that I use to mix those is going to be that medium highlight that you used. Don't use your brightest color, or don't use your darkest color. Use that medium way color that you used, that medium paint, and I recommend for you to water that one down. That way it can just blend them all together. And at the very end, what I like to do, since skin, we're people, we're alive, we have blood in our veins, therefore we have this a little bit of a red tint. No matter what color skin we are, we do have that kind of tint, that we have blood in our skin. So what I like to do at the very end, but that's just me, I don't think you guys want to do this, but what I like to do is I like to add just a very thin down just red with that skin color, so it can just look a little bit more natural, more alive, less weird. Now for the inside of the code, I wanted to base myself into one of those fancy pirates, so I wanted to do like a very bright red code, and it's going to be basically the same thing. I'm going to do just some light, very light feathering and some stippling, so I can just add a little bit color. For me, the inside is a little bit kind of like cotton, it has like wool, it has to be very comfortable, but they dyed it to a red color, and that is what my imagination took me to, is just adding those colors. And I wanted to give him red hair because, orange hair, because why not? They're pirates, they gotta be crazy. So I go ahead and also highlighted all my areas, and I'm basically using the same techniques that I used for the skin and I used for the pants. It's just a very thin layers of glazes, so I can just build up those colors. It does take time, and that is one downside when it comes to working with layers, working with glazes, is that it does take time. You have to be patient. You will be putting up a lot of layers to build up that color. Sometimes it's going to look good, sometimes it's going to fail, but that's okay. What's matter is that you try it, and whatever you feel comfortable that it looks good. For the back of his coat, it's kind of like an emerald blue color. That's what I wanted to go for because it was just a little bit fantastical. My pirate is a little bit fantastical because the universes that I like to paint for are fantasy universes. I'm really into sci-fi, but when it comes to my painting, I really like to do those kind of realistic kind of colors. I'm still working a lot into getting way better in my painting, and hopefully it does show here, but I just wanted to get just a lot better. Hopefully one day I can enter into a painting competition, maybe one day win, but those are dreams that one has. But like I said, it does take time. You just have to be patient. You have to wait until the paint dries as well. Don't just go in putting one layer and then continue with another layer right on top of it, because then you're just gonna lose all that work you just did. So just be patient and wait until it dries. If you have another model that you've been working on just on the side, just go ahead and paint that model. Wait until that paint dries. And the good thing about this the artist range by scale 75 is that it's a very matte color and it dries pretty quickly, and that's another reason why I highly recommend it, because since it does have a very high drying time, it kind of makes you move a little bit faster when it comes to putting those layers. Once you finish, you get a little bit of time to paint another model, but by the time you look to your side, it's already dried, and that is quite awesome, and I really like that. And like I said, just have to be patient. It'll get there, trust me. I know it does take a lot of work, and that's why when you paint for fun, that's what it is. It's just for fun. It's something to relax with. I like to listen to podcasts on the side. If you guys would like to know what podcast that is, I like to listen to a lot of historical things. Kind of boring, but that's what I like to listen to. But like I said, you just have to do a lot of layering, and eventually you're gonna get to a point where it's going to look as good as you imagine. And after a while, it's going to be just having to work on how to blend those colors. I think that is probably the toughest part when it comes to painting, is that you build up those colors, but when it comes to blending them in together, getting rid of those lines, those to make it a little bit more of a smooth transition. I know it tends to be hard, but sometimes it could work pretty well on certain models if that's what you're looking for. You don't have to worry a lot about those lines looking very rough. Honestly, sometimes it looks even much better when those lines are visible, especially when things like this, for example. I'm still thinking this is a leather. It was just dyed blue. It's been worn down, and what I've read when it comes to leather is that when it's dyed and it's not natural, instead of getting dark, they get bright because they lose the pigment. So with the sun and everything, for some reason, like I guess I want to call it artificial leather or something like that, it gets bright instead of getting dark. So that's what I imagine, is that, after a while I stippled a bunch of little, just very, very bright turquoise with a little bit of white everywhere, so I can give it that little rough texture that it's been worn down, and it's a jacket that has seen battles. It's a jacket that he has sailed with. It's a jacket that he practically lived with. So when you get to that point, same thing as the skin, I added just a very thin down with glaze or with water, whatever you like to work with. Just very thin to almost a water consistency. You get rid of most of the paint out of your brush, either on your wet palette or on your hand, whatever you'd like to use. And then you just put that, and you keep on adding those little very thin layers. And when it dries down, it's going to blend in, and it's going to look really nice texture, like how you see here. And for the little outline of the jacket, originally I had thought of made it white, but once you see the bigger picture, once you see your model, there are things that you might want to change, and it's quite normal. I mean, that things happen, things as you go, nothing ever stays the same. So why not just it also happens with painting minis or whatever, painting a canvas or anything. Eventually you see that a certain color is not jiving with the rest. So, and this is how it looked like with the face. And then I added some gold on trimming because he's a pirate, he has to have gold. And so in the end it looked pretty great. All those little stippling and feathering that I did on his jacket, on his pants, after everything just dries down, it just looked oh so perfect. I added some gold to his also that outline of the jacket because why not, it's a little fancy pirate, so it's pretty cool. And like I said, once the back dry down, to me it looks perfect. You can see those rough lines that I was talking about that I'm still working on blending them pretty well, but they blended so well in my opinion that it kind of makes it look better than what I thought. And like I said, you just have to think about where your light source is coming from. You gotta really think about where it's hitting, and also think about the material. And it was so fun painting this, and it was just a great learning experience when it comes to painting leather, when it comes to painting texture. I learned so much from just this one model that I 3D printed, and it was just a great experience. After a while I decided to add a little bit of background so you guys can see what I imagine in my head. The back is a little drawing that I made on a piece of wood. The rest is just some terracotta milliput, and I just painted it like barrels. So he's ready to go and get some of that gold from whatever port that he's about to attack. With that background, I think he looks amazing. The texture just came out pretty well. But like I said, hopefully y'all liked this video, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And this video I decided to talk a lot, but hopefully y'all like it, and leave a comment below. What do you guys think about this model? What do you guys think about this way that I painted? But like I said, hopefully y'all like it. I know I did talk a lot in this video, but I was just so excited into the way this guy looked like. I wanted to show you guys how it just came out and the techniques that I did. Hopefully I wasn't just all over the place, but go ahead and leave a comment below, see if you guys liked it. What do you guys think about the way I explain things should I get better at? Also, if you guys like to 3D print, and what kind of scenery you guys like to use. You guys like to paint fantasy, you guys like to paint sci-fi, realistic, or the over the top way of painting. I don't know, maybe grime, very dark. So yeah, go ahead and leave a comment below. I would like to have a conversation with y'all. And like I said, just thanks for watching.